Hi students, welcome to Women of FHSS. Today we have with us Anna Murphy, who works at the Milken Institute. Welcome, Anna.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to our students. Anna, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I am Anna Murphy, as Lindsay said. I currently work with the Milken Institute. I'm an associate, a part of our business and program development team. And my specific focus within that team is fundraising and a little bit more on the corporate and foundation side of things. I support our team to find engagement opportunities across all different sponsors through our events, through our centers. So that's more of my professional life, but I graduated from BYU back in 2018 with a bachelor's in political science. And I am originally from Utah. Utah has a very special place in my heart, and hopefully one day I'll make it back there. But right now I live in Washington, D.C., which is where my organization is located. I moved to DC about 2 years ago, and I've absolutely loved being here. It's been quite unfortunate in the last year because of the pandemic. So we've been mostly stuck inside, but it's been quite a thrill of being in the nation's capital.
That's awesome. And what a great place, I think, for a lot of our young people to go. I find that we have this kind of migration that happens. It's like Utah to Washington, D.C., and then if it's not Utah to Washington, D.C., it's Florida. That seems to be what happens with a lot of our students. So that's really
Yes.
great.
Yeah, both are great places. I have actually only been to Florida once, but if I had another place to pick, it might be Florida.
Yeah, maybe that's next on your list. You'll follow
Yeah,
the migration that way, yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Well, Anna, I was wondering if you could share with us some of the reasons why you pursued a career and the benefits that it's brought to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that pursuing a career has always been something I've wanted. When I first came to college, it was not the career that I have now that I wanted. I actually focused on being a doctor, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people who come to college thinking that they want to be doctors and then decide that they actually don't want to be a doctor. So I was one of those people. And as I was going through my journey and discovering what I wanted to do and what goals I had for my life long term, something that really impacted me was that I love the ability to take responsibility for my successes. And with that also comes taking responsibility for when I don't succeed, when I fail or make a mistake. But I think the joy and happiness and purpose that I feel from taking responsibility for my successes only helped my desire to want to pursue a career. It was something that I considered for a long time, and maybe down the road my career will change, but I've really felt a lot of purpose from my career and being able to take credit for my successes and work within a team. So that's really where the desire came from. And I think that at BYU, seeing my professors interacting with my colleagues really helped me solidify my desire for wanting to take more of a career path versus something else.
That's an amazing example. I think that it's very interesting that we have a lot of women in particular who learn this along the way, that it's not something that they start off thinking about. And so it's refreshing to know that there are also other women out there that are like, no, this has always been something that I've wanted to do, and it gives me purpose and it gives me meaning.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I absolutely agree with that. And I think something for me that was really helpful was kind of along my career path or even throughout college and even into high school, I always would check in with myself and make sure that I was happy with my trajectory or reevaluate if I felt like I wasn't liking my classes in particular, or maybe not liking some of the things I was hearing about a specific career field. Or every career field is very different, and I am maybe not the type who's cut out to work on Wall Street. And I don't always want to put in 15-hour days. So I think for me, something that was really helpful along the way was just continuing to check in with myself and be really introspective about if this was actually making me happy and was something that was going to fulfill me even beyond a paycheck or just a job or something to do. Is this, I just kept checking in with myself, and to this day I still do. Is this something that's actually making me happy and something I want to continue to pursue?
Absolutely. And I'm sure, and I hope I'm not throwing you under the bus here, but I'm sure that that was a very faith-filled conversation too.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely, I mean, all across the spectrum, I have talked to, my husband, my family members, I check in with friends, with everybody, and make sure that it is something that is bringing me happiness. So it is definitely a very full spectrum, conversation that takes place.
Awesome. Well, speaking of which, it sounds to me like that was something that helped you as you were pursuing opportunities in your undergraduate experience. What other things that did you do as a college student that helped open up these future opportunities? How did you prepare for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think some of the ways that I prepared for them were looking for opportunities that might not always seem the most obvious. I know BYU has incredible resources, and I am grateful to have been a part of a school that had so many resources available to me. But one of my internships that I did when I was in college, actually, I didn't apply through BYU for. I had found it through my first internship that I had and kind of connected me to that path. And I was a little unsure if this is something I should pursue or if I would even be successful at it, because it wasn't necessarily through BYU. But I think looking for unconventional opportunities is something that really helped me succeed. I just found the ability to look for something that was interesting to me and then pursue it, even though I might not have fit perfectly all of the qualifications that they were looking for in an intern. It might have been a little bit of a stretch, but I felt confident in my ability to do a good job. So I think just kind of trusting yourself and knowing that you are your own worst critic. So even though you might not entirely fit into a job application or an internship application, it's okay, because I think a lot of the times what people are looking for is a desire to work hard and be a part of a team. So for me, it was always looking for opportunities that might push me out of my comfort zone or challenge me in ways I didn't think that I would like to be challenged. So
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I don't have the exact research here, and I will do some more research on where to find this, but there is some research out there that says that women will apply for jobs that they are 90% qualified for, a perceived qualification, but then men will apply for jobs where they are 50% qualified. And so I'm really glad that you said that, because I think that's something that people need to hear. That most of the time when jobs are posted, they're not, if they actually hired someone that had all those qualifications, it's almost a waste of time, right?
yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you're going to come in, we're going to get you up to speed on everything, and then you're going to get really bored, right? So these job searches are actually like, no, we want you to meet most of these, but we know you're not going to meet all of them. And even if you did, we probably wouldn't hire you anyway, because you're just going to get bored. So I'm really glad you said something about that.
Yeah, and I definitely have felt that and continue to remind myself. I actually think that there might have been an article in the Atlantic a while back, and that's where I first heard that same statistic, that women are less likely to apply for jobs even when they are qualified. And I think that is something that I continually have to remind myself of, and I'm sure that you feel that same way, is that if there's a task in any place in my life, whether it's just at home or even at work, if there's a task that I feel like maybe I'm not quite qualified for, or, oh, maybe I shouldn't speak up in this meeting because I'm more of a junior staffer, or they might not want to hear my opinion because of any reason, right? And oftentimes I think that women in particular continue to second guess themselves, and that's not always the case. And I think that any times that I have been vocal about my opinion or my thoughts, or, you know, in any kind of strategy or brainstorming meeting, every single time it's been very well received. People are interested in your opinion. They want to hear your thoughts and ideas because, you know, people who have risen to senior leadership positions, they were once in our positions, they were once in our same spots, and they know that, you know, everybody has innovative ideas in any way, shape, or form. So I think that that has been something that I've had to keep in mind as I've been going throughout my career.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of, what are some ways that your job and career has come easy for you? And then what are some ways that it's challenged you?
Yeah, I think some of the ways that it's come easy for me, I've always been a team player. I was a gymnast throughout middle school, high school. And so because of that, I was forced to be a part of a team, even though it might seem more of an individual sport. At the end of the day, you really are working hard to support your teammates. And it's kind of the same idea of the shine theory. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but the idea of it is that if you shine, then I shine. And being part of a team is absolutely crucial. I would say probably at the majority of organizations, maybe not all, but at the majority of organizations. And for me, it was a skill that I developed early on in my life. And I've just been able to carry that through in my family, in my marriage, at my job, and really focus on that. And on the other hand, some ways it's been challenging have just been, this is maybe a funny one, but reading emotions through email sometimes. I remember when I got my first job, if my boss would send me a really short email, my mind would immediately panic. Oh, he's mad. I did something wrong. And it's not always that, you know, it's not always that way. It's usually the majority of the time it's just, oh, he's just in a hurry, right? There's just a quick response. And so I think that reading emotion through email can kind of be a challenge at first. And especially since, you know, us millennials, we've grown up with technology, and I use a lot of emojis, a lot of exclamation points when I'm talking to people. And if people don't communicate that same way to me, I'm concerned that they're upset. So that was an interesting learning curve for me, that even sometimes still I have to remind myself that it's just a quick message. Nobody's angry. So another thing that was a little bit challenging when I first got into my career field after college was just learning how to communicate with people who aren't the best communicators. I think that over communication it's always better to err on the side of over communication. And that has also been quite a learning curve for me, and understanding that not everybody has an amazing skill at communicating. And so sometimes you have to just work a little extra hard to communicate with them and reiterate things once or twice, whatever it needs.
Well, and I'm sure too that those two things together, right? So the email voice, I chuckle because I had a very similar experience in my first job where it was the same thing, and I finally just had to ask my boss to put smiley faces in so that I knew that he was aware that his email voice was very stern. But I think that that's so important, that communication aspect. Like, there's nothing wrong with asking more questions in order to gain clarification. Like, now, what I'm hearing is this, or what I'm reading is this. Is this what you meant? Right? And so do you think that that even helped you overcome, you know, kind of the emotional flow of an email?
Absolutely. I think that over communicating definitely helps you decipher email language. And it also comes with time too. I think as you, especially working at a new organization or a new job or a new team, everybody has their own style of communicating, and it takes a little bit of adjusting. And some people also are like me, and they communicate with a lot of exclamation points or smiley faces, and some people don't. They'll just send you a quick message, you know, in the subject line, and it's just because they're in a hurry, or that's just their style of communication. So I think that being patient with yourself and being patient with your understanding and adjustment to any job, any new team, any new responsibilities is okay. You don't have to understand and be perfect right at the start. You know, there's definitely a learning curve. So
How often did you use that card? Like, I'm new here, so I'm.
I think that, you know, that's a great question, because I think in COVID, the new card can probably be played for a good year, you know, because if you're onboarding to an organization for completely virtual, I imagine that everything is hard for you. So it's no, after 3 months, you're still new, right? So I think probably in these times, if you are starting with an organization completely virtual, you are new for a year. So, but for me, when I got my job first out of college, I probably played the new card for a good 3 months, and maybe even a few times even after that, because it's just everybody understands it's part of the learning curve, especially if you're at an organization where people have been there for a really long time. Then they've all understood how to communicate with each other and understand people's flexibility or schedules. And you coming in new, even though after 3 months you feel like you've been there for a decent amount of time and you have a good lay of the land, it's still hard to understand the communication aspect in an organization.
Thank you for that. And I think that's so important, because even though I've been working for 20 plus years, every time I'm new, it's this really frustrating experience. Why don't I know this yet? I know that they hired me because I'm smart, but I don't know why I don't know this. So I love that your advice is give yourself some grace. That's okay.
Yes.
Moving on to another topic, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about networking. How important is networking for you? And did you obtain this kind of concept of networking earlier before you started working, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Networking is a huge aspect of my job, and I absolutely love networking with people. Any opportunity I can find to meet new people, I take advantage of it. I am very extroverted, so that does help in networking. But I think that networking in more of a professional sense was a skill that I did learn early on. It was towards the beginning, I think maybe my freshman or sophomore year of college, when I first started to understand the importance of networking and using your network and staying in touch with those people, which LinkedIn is an amazing resource. So I'm grateful that there's also that virtual capability of networking. But yeah, early on I learned about networking, and it really helped me get to where I am now. The second internship that I got while I was in college, I interned with the Milken Institute, and I got that internship through connections at my previous internship. And it, I think one of the things that's amazing about it is that it's almost like your reputation precedes you. You don't have to be a known person or famous by any means, but if somebody can vouch for your character, you already have a leg up. You know, people are interested in finding and working with other individuals who are capable and can work hard and are determined. And if somebody can vouch for you on those characteristics or whatever specific skill set they're looking for, then you instantly have kind of this trust and connection with whatever organization you're moving towards. And I think vice versa, like if I can be helpful to a friend or a family member or coworker or somebody I met at a dinner 3 years ago, I would be more than happy to go out of my way to help somebody. And I think one of the things that I absolutely love about being in Washington, D.C. is that everybody is interested in helping people. No matter how senior they are in their career, I've had incredible mentors since I've come to DC who are interested in hearing about my experience and interested in seeing me succeed. And I'm sure as much as I can now return that favor, I want to. And as I go into my, further into my career, I want to be able to facilitate networking for other people or be there to help them find a new job or find some connection that they need. So it is absolutely crucial. And, it's especially in the fundraising world, networking is very important. So I really, really cannot stress networking enough. Even if it's just at a casual friend gathering, you know, somebody in that crowd can be helpful to you later down the road. I think everybody you meet has importance in some way, shape, or form in your life.
I love that. And it sounds to me like the network that you've been able to achieve, they've become more than just this person that you ask a bunch of questions to. Like they become mentors in your life, and they've given you the support that you've needed to kind of think through things or connect with other individuals that you need to connect with. And I think that that's so valuable for to understand, is that networking doesn't have to be this really scary thing. Think of it as, you know, how can we help one another, because we're all trying to do this together, you know?
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be so professional, you know. People oftentimes think of networking almost like an interview, but it's not. And I think people forget that whoever they're networking with is also human. So they were once in your same shoes, asking for a connection to somebody somewhere. So, and people really are just so interested and willing to help and facilitate whatever they can for you. And oftentimes, you know, even if, like I mentioned, like even if you're just at a friend gathering or some kind of event in, well, pre-COVID in Washington, D.C., we have events all the time. So it was great to just meet people, and it's almost like looking for friends, right? If you're at some event, you just chat to people, and maybe immediately the connection that you make with them isn't necessarily helpful in your career trajectory, but at some point it could be very valuable. Like if you're working on a project at work and you've connected with somebody who's in that same field, you can ask them for advice. It doesn't always have to be a networking opportunity for a job. It can just be simply advice on a career path, advice on a project you're working on, a collaboration between your organizations moving forward. So I think that people think of networking as really scary and very formal, but it's such a casual process. And you can even just ask somebody, you know, hey, can we go grab a quick snack or dessert or a bite to eat or lunch, right? It doesn't have to be this, let's have a meeting or let's schedule a phone call or something. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait till we get to a space where we can start doing that a little bit more. So we'll just cross our fingers that that's in the future.
Definitely miss that a lot. So I am really hopeful that we can move back to that at some point soon.
So what does support look like for you, either at home or at work, when it comes to achieving what you want to achieve and being successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think surprisingly, support at home and at work actually look a little similar. My husband and I both, my husband and I got married about 5 years ago, and we both work in Washington, D.C., and we both have pretty fairly demanding jobs. So sometimes that requires long hours during the week. Sometimes it requires a little bit of work on the weekends. It can require traveling for him and me. So it really, something that has been absolutely vital to our happiness has been constant communication, teamwork across everything. We have a very large dog, and he is our child. So you know, there's aspects of it that somebody has to cook dinner, somebody has to clean the house, and not all the time do those responsibilities fall to one person, and they shouldn't, right? Because we're a team and we're working to better our lives. We're not just working to better my life or his life. And so we consistently check in with each other and take things off each other's plate whenever we need the help. My husband he just finished his master's degree. And while he was going to school, I took on a lot more responsibility at home so that he could be able to go to class and pursue something that was of interest to him. And there have been times when I'm really busy with work or I'm traveling for an event or any sorts of things, and he picks up a lot more of the responsibilities at home because, you know, it's just a team and things have to get done, and it doesn't really matter who does them at the end of the day. And I always go back to thinking about the shine theory. If he's shining, then I'm shining. And if I'm shining, he's shining. And I think at work, it looks a lot of the same way. I'm fortunate to work with an absolutely incredible team, and they consistently check in on me, and I check in on them to make sure their bandwidth and workload is manageable, or if there's some family event or something in their lives that they need to attend to, we all step in to help each other. So it really is I think collaboration and at home and at work is probably the number one thing to be that's been supportive of me in my career.
Did you have to work up to that? Was it hard at first, like maybe in your marriages, you were both pursuing things that were helping you individually shine? Did you find that that was really difficult at first, or has it been, kind of smooth sailing, little bumps here and there? Like, what was your experience?
I wish that I could say it was smooth sailing the entire time, but I think at the beginning there's definitely a learning curve. Like I was saying earlier, I think with anything, with any new organization, any new team you move to, a new marriage, a new place you live in, everything has its learning curve. And I think what was fortunate for us is that we were able to keep this mind of openness and flexibility and adaptability. And that has been immensely successful for us. But it's not easy. It's not easy to just tell yourself, oh, I'm going to be flexible for my entire life and I can adapt to all change, because sometimes it's really hard. And I had, it might have been a slower learning curve at the beginning when we first got married, but after time, we were just able to understand what one another needs. And like with any team, and I think with my team at work too, when I first joined the team, I didn't know, if I was overwhelmed, I didn't know I could just be like, hey, I don't have the bandwidth for this. Can somebody else do it? Or, I just message a coworker and ask for some help. At the beginning, I was concerned that it would make me look bad if I asked for a project to be taken off my plate, or my boss wouldn't trust me for more responsibility if I asked for help on something. But that's not the case. I think one of the lessons that I continually learn is that people, want to help, and it doesn't mean that they trust you less or will adjust how they communicate and, trust you in the future. It's just a matter of a learning curve. So I continually learn that lesson even now, but at the beginning it was not so easy.
Thank you so much for being so open to talk about that. I think that not that we go in with blinders, right? Like, I think we all know, but it's just nice to hear the realness of the experience, because I think we have this idea and this perception of what it will be. And then sometimes when that doesn't happen, our expectations fall a little short and some other things happen as a result of that. So thanks for being so open and honest about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for me and my husband in particular, at the beginning, it was really helpful to it maybe sounds bad, but keep your expectations low, because you just don't know. You're both coming from vastly different backgrounds. You have very different families. Even if your families are somewhat similar, you just have different expectations for what your life is going to look like. And the merging of those two expectations can be really hard. So as long as you go into any friendship, marriage, relationship, whatever, with an open mind and low expectations, then I think you both are able to kind of meet somewhere in the middle and reorganize your expectations, and maybe then set them higher once you've kind of gotten to that point. But I think that's the case with any relationship.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So as we wrap up here, is there anything else that you feel will empower our women students to pursue whatever they choose post-graduation, whether it's fulfilling grad school opportunities, stay-at-home opportunities, part-time, full-time, anything else?
Yeah, I think one thing that has been extraordinarily helpful for me has just been not just going through the motions of going to college, applying for an internship, getting a career, getting any kind of job, being a mom. It's not just going through the motions in those aspects of my life. It's really internalizing those actions that I'm choosing and being very intentional about what I'm choosing, no matter what it is. And I think that has provided me a level of happiness that I didn't know I would enjoy so much. And I think being insightful and being honest and vulnerable with your own self and people around you will open up opportunities that you didn't know. Um, some, some important people in my life have consistently told me that people who make the most impact are the people who they know as people and then as coworkers. And I've experienced that as well. And so at any moment that I can, I feel comfortable to be vulnerable and open with my team, my husband, my family, my friends, because I think that they respond to that more. And I oftentimes forget to be open and vulnerable with myself. And so that in and of itself has been immensely helpful for the happiness and priorities of my life.
Thank you. Words of wisdom. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's
Yeah.
been such a pleasure having you, Anna, come and talk to us about all these things that you've learned going into something that it sounds to me like you just love. Like you're really passionate about what you do, and I can feel that and feel that energy. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor to be here, and I am very passionate about watching women succeed in whatever path of life that they choose, and feeling empowered to make decisions and be decisive. And so I really appreciate that you guys are doing this.
Thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. You too.